Would you be my? It's the done. I still got a lot of shit to learn.
Greetings, fellow humans, and welcome to the Purple Moon Podcast. I am your host, Tui Totai.
I am the other host, Pili Totai.
Yeah, and so we're just starting this podcast in order to give a kind of a place to stay for people who love manga and want to like have discussions about it and actually talk about it with other people who love manga, just to share opinions and see what other people think about it. Now this week, this is our first episode, and we also have a special guest here named Eli Johnson.
Hey.
Lovely.
Now, I have these guys prepared with manga beforehand to bring to the podcast so we can talk about it. Now, this is going to be our first segment, and because it's the first episode, I'll try to explain it well. Our first segment is just going to be us talking about a manga that we've recently been into, maybe over the past week, maybe over the past few weeks, but either way, we're just going to be talking about it and see what each other feels about it. So, Billy, you first. What manga did you want to talk about today?
Today I'm going to be talking about the manga Sunken Rock. But not sunken. It's like Sunken Rock, I suppose. Yeah, pronunciations. They're difficult.
Right.
Minute synopsis on that.
I don't know what that means.
So
Basically a summary of the
summary
story.
of the story. 1 minute. Like
So there's this guy, Ken. He falls in love with a girl. Turns out that she's Korean. So there's this Japanese guy, Ken. He lives in Japan. He likes this girl. And then she, at the end of the year, he graduates and he's like, hey, I like you. And she's like, I'm actually moving to be a cop in Korea. So he has to follow her. And it's just the tales and adventures of him finding himself and her in Korea, in a land where he doesn't know anyone. And it's a completely new adventure. And he has to adjust to a new lifestyle.
And also chase after this girl.
Also chase after this girl.
All right. So what would you say about this manga to someone who's never even read anything like it before, in order to get them to be interested?
It has really great comedic timing. It's really well spaced about the jokes. They're not like overly pressured. They're also not like widespread. It's really nice. The characters' development is also really, really good. The characters really band together almost too well, one might say. But nonetheless, yeah. So for anyone that is like, oh, that does sound interesting, but I don't know where, yes, right. So for anyone who is like, maybe you're interested in it, I would definitely advise it because the dialogue is really good. They explain themselves really well, but not in like an overly like this is how it is and these are the rules of the world. It's just It feels really natural.
It's not just overflowing with exposition, right?
Yes,
like a realistic presentation to the kind of the rules of this world. You would say. Okay. What type of who's your favorite character?
Ooh.
And of course, why? Since we don't know anything about why.
My favorite character is the second in command below Ken, because Ken is a gang leader now.
Ah, he's a gang leader.
Yes. That's not a spoiler. You find out in the first chapter. That is the premise of it.
Ah.
He's a gang member. Chasing after a cop. That's why it's so funny.
Ah, how ironic.
How ironic. But yes, his second in command is he's just so... I really like him because he is always the same character. And though I can understand that he's a static character, I can understand that, it's so good to just have someone that you can look back on every single time and he doesn't vary at all. When Ken has his doubts and he's like, can I even handle this? Can I do what needs to be done? And this guy's like, what are you talking about? Yes, there's no doubt in anyone's mind. You are the leader. We will follow you to the death. And he's always there. Loyal. He's practically like a hound, just always right there on Ken's heels and supportive, to the end. Absolutely no doubts in his mind. I love it.
Right. You could say this. He's basically his backbone.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. And what about you, Ali? What manga did you want to talk about?
I picked one that I picked it because of the gaming side of me, because I love gaming. I picked the Kingdom Hearts manga.
And for those who don't know what Kingdom Hearts is,
God, you not that's a whole tangent. So Kingdom Hearts. Okay, so to give a summary of it, Kingdom Hearts is a manga game, all that, about this boy named Sora, who finds out that the world is going into chaos. Like the worlds are being destroyed, and he finds out that he has this certain ability to be able to wield this certain blade to destroy the evil that's happening, called Heartless, called the Keyblade.
Right.
So he goes around with these two characters, Goofy and Donald, because they are trying to find the guy who had the Keyblade. So they found him, and now they're on the adventure to save Kingdom Hearts.
I see. Sounds a bit confusing, but I'm sure they all
Kingdom Hearts in general. The lore for the story is so diverse and so deep that they played 7 games already, and to be honest, 8 games, and they're still continuing on the lore.
All right, so what would you say to someone who has never even heard of Kingdom Hearts, like in order to get them interested in it?
They get interested
as
in
a
it
manga.
As a manga, Disney mixed with Japanese culture. Because they mix like different types of gaming. So you see Disney characters mixing with Final Fantasy characters, mixing with their own brand of their own characters.
Right.
So the thing that caught my attention was when I first appeared to it as a kid, was the fact that Disney, because I really like Disney as a kid, and a lot of people, the nostalgic of Disney, like all their favorite movies as kids, they're presented in the show. They're presented in the game, the manga. They're presented in that, and they go through the adventures of trying to figure out what's wrong. Why is the world in chaos?
That's so interesting. Does the story of the manga run? Like, does it retell the story of one of the video games, or is it a different story that kind of runs?
So
parallel?
it tells the story. So like the one I'm reading right now is Kingdom Hearts 2. So that one, it goes basically with story, but it adds extra. It adds more exposition, adds more character development, and you find out more. Like for me, I've played Kingdom Hearts 2, the game, like 6 times. I've beaten the game 6 times, 7 times, and with it, I notice all the things that are different. I automatically remember the cutscenes that happened in the beginnings and all that. And it's in the manga and the game are different. They do a different outlook towards it because they can't because in the game you have action sequences that you have to attack.
Right.
But in the manga they just show you what's going to happen, and
it's already choreographed.
Yeah, it's already choreographed. And it's actually really clean, really smooth, and I like it.
A lot cleaner than with our thumbsticks behind the controls, right?
Yeah, X all day. Smash, 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 smash. Ah!
All right. Now, one more question. Who would you say is your favorite character and why?
I think my favorite character in the whole, so far, is I like Namine. She's she's this girl that is able to help create and manipulate your memories. She was created for that purpose. So what happened was in the game Chain of Memories, or because they have a manga for it, you find out that Sora's losing all his memories, going through Castle Oblivion, and because of that, she's willing to repair it, but it will take a year's slumber. So with the repairing, Roxas was formed, because he's a nobody. Because in number 1, he became a Heartless. So a Heartless becomes the hollow shell of a Heartless is a nobody. They both get created at the same time. So Roxas was created. And due to that instance, Namine had to make a decision to continue repairing the memories. And she wasn't supposed to tell Roxas anything really about just saying that he's not the one who's going to stay.
Right.
She wanted to tell him that, hey, you're actually going to be with us. You're going to still be whole. You're not some half being who's worthless. And her whole character is just breaking through and just trying to help him. So.
And she lied.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Now I will say that the explanation was was quite long-winded, but it's because of the nature of Kingdom Hearts. It's something you really have to dig into to kind of get all the pieces and parts that go together.
Explain a thing about Kingdom Hearts, you have to
You have to explain like 3 more things.
You have to explain where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like, because if I just explain Naminé can repair memories and destroy memories and like create and manipulate memories, you'd be like, oh, how is that occurrence? Well, there's this, and this.
There's this, like you said, words like Castle Oblivion, like that's probably a staple in the series of Kingdom Hearts. But to
if you're in the like, what I recommend, start with the first manga because it explains the main characters that you'll be dealing with, and then Chain of Memories, and then there's more after that. There's more manga, which I really like that they did a lot of manga for it. There's over, I think, 150 chapters out of all the series combined. So it's really good. I really like it. It's more towards a mature audience because there is swearing in it. Which I prefer because honestly, I like the realness of it, not just these grown adults saying shucky darn or whatever.
Shucky darn flabbity jack nabbit.
Yeah. So the
insert bad words.
So the manga, since I've been into the gaming community with this fan base, I actually do prefer it.
Right. I also prefer explicit content, not for the sake of being explicit, but just if it needs to be explicit to be itself, I support that. Like for instance, Deadpool. Deadpool needs to be explicit in order for him to be himself. And so that's why I'm okay with him being way too raunchy.
There's a streaming service that you can watch that movie edited. It's like 30 minutes long. No, for real. Like
edited. How?
Like they edit out the nudity, the language, the violence.
So what's left? Just Deadpool talking to people?
Yeah.
Just dialogue between him and other characters?
30 minutes of when Deadpool's not talking.
Yeah,
basically.
and basically they bleep out any swear words.
Just seems unnecessary.
It just seems like too much work for that movie.
Yeah,
no,
way too much.
but they offer it, which I'm like, hey, everyone wants to see a movie.
Fair enough.
That's how good Deadpool is. People are still willing to do that because it's so good a movie. They're like, I want to watch it, but I don't want to.
They edit Game of Thrones too.
What?
They edit Game of Thrones too. The 25-minute episodes.
Unnecessary.
So yeah. All right, so now my turn to bring in my manga. The manga I want to talk about, or I should say webcomic, honestly, because it's a comic posted on a platform that's called Webtoons, which is an app you can get on your phone, as well as a website that you can go to online where you can read manga as well as post your own manga yourself on there for free. And, it's not an ad. I just really, really appreciate Webtoons and what they do, and like the tools that they give to the community behind webcomics and, letting it thrive as a community.
Sponsorships.
Hashtag sponsor, not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored.
So, yeah. And so the webtoon that I'm bringing today to talk about is named Geppetto. Now, this webtoon named Geppetto is loosely based on the story of Pinocchio, which was written by Carlo Collodi, way back in I don't know,
back in
early 1900s.
Yeah, that's
that.
a story that's so long. It like back in the day, it's like holy crap.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring up the author's name Carlo Collodi is because in this webtoon, the main character's name is Carlo Collodi, and so it shows that in and of itself shows at least a certain level of research that was put into the story of Pinocchio before writing this story in the first place. And so the whole premise of this webtoon is that the world, like mankind, created androids, and they had been making progress towards creating androids for like decades until one doctor specifically cracked the code for making androids nearly identical to humans, even with the ability of having emotions. But and that doctor's name was Dr. Geppetto. And so the whole premise of the story is you follow Carlo Collodi as he goes through this post-apocalyptic world at this point, where the humans and the androids have basically been at war for years, and the whole thing is that Carlo Collodi is a human, but he meets this android in like a landfill, you know, like where all the trash goes in the city, and she wakes up, and it turns out her name is Whale.
Whale.
Get it? Carlo Collodi, Geppetto,
Yeah.
Pinocchio, Whale.
I feel it.
So Pinocchio did come out in 1881.
1881.
That's what the original book. So that's a fact check.
All right. Yeah.
Just wanted to,
Not early 90s.
you know, so
Housekeeping.
so like the original 1940 movie it came out then, but the story came out 60 years
Yeah.
prior.
Yeah. Good to know.
Knowledge is power.
No, it's just, what is it? The more you learn, or the more you know. Anyway,
I don't know.
hop onto my flying dragon and come on a learning journey with me.
What is this? Dragon Tales? Come on,
Reading
take
rainbow,
my hand. Rainbow.
Anyway,
Come on.
speaking of reading, yeah. So Carlo Collodi meets an android named Whale, and it goes through their adventures trying to find the bridge between humanity and androids that'll stop everyone from dying. It's pretty interesting. It's actually it gets into like psychological warfare in a certain way between two different groups, because they have to trust each other in order to survive, but they also are against each other because their ideals are like strikingly different. They're opposite ends of the spectrum, but they have a common enemy that they end up needing to fight like against with each other.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, you know, at least for today.
Mm-hmm.
That's for today.
And so that's the manga I wanted to like, something I would say to someone who's never even heard of Geppetto or let alone like webtoons, is I would say that Geppetto it's a thrilling ride to go down, because there's a lot of twists and turns that even I didn't see coming, like I legitimately didn't see coming, like actual surprises, which doesn't really happen very often with me because I read so much, that like twists become you start to see a pattern in how twists are set up in order to be paid off. And I can say I was legitimately surprised by this webtoon at least a couple times. And I would say my favorite character as of right now, without thinking about it too much, would probably be Carlo, just because he goes through a lot and he really finds a way to hold on to his humanity inside of this dark, drab world filled with just machines and death, basically. It's just really, really interesting. I suggest it to anyone who likes reading.
Or Pinocchio?
Would you recommend
Like
this?
the original story?
Like, would you say that it brings nostalgia almost to the idea? Or is it just kind of like it peppers in references every so often, but not truly connected
Well,
when
there-
I say to the...
Like, for instance, Carlo Collodi is the main character, so it's like every single episode the authors of the original Pinocchio is dropped as a reference, you know what I'm saying? As well as Whale, representing the whale from the story of Pinocchio, and Dr. Geppetto representing
Geppetto.
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 Yeah, like, yeah.
Ho, ho.
Pretty sure I've said Geppetto today more than I've in my life.
There are
I've
are-
seen the Geppetto movie, and that's horrible. Do not watch it. Drew Carey. Drew Carey.
Savage.
Drew
Why
Carey.
you got a dog on Drew Carey? That's my boy.
He's not your boy. Do not lie to me.
He was my boy.
Because of whose line is it anyway?
and then you gave him up for
Anyways.
adoption, you monster.
Because he lost 60 pounds and became a father.
Monster Shrek. Well, yeah, okay. I couldn't handle the granddad thing. All right. Moving along.
No, we're not moving on.
Yeah, you know what? This is how I feel about it. Tui, next.
I
Alright.
feel very... Next subject, please.
So the next thing I want to talk about, the next segment that we're gonna move into, is I want to talk about how you guys feel about manga in general right now. Like, if you could collect all your thoughts and feelings about manga into the least amount of words as possible,
Least amount of words.
just so I can restrict your actual knowledge as much as I can.
Restrict my knowledge.
Give me one word that
You're- I'm just trying to let you have an answer that doesn't represent you fully. That's what I'm
so
trying to do.
no representation here. Okay. So manga. Pilly, I need you to go first.
I would say that manga currently is exciting and new. Yes. Yeah. That is as short a summary, but I think that really just encapsulates everything that I could think about the manga that I currently know of.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Good.
So manga is interesting and diverse. You can find anything.
Oh yeah.
Like you can find like any genre. If you're looking for a horror one, I can name you 5. If you want to find a romance one, honey, I got a list.
You want to find a psychological thriller slice of life with a little bit of romance? We got you.
We got you.
You like
See,
fantasy? Don't even think about it. It's everywhere.
If you have a little R rating feeling for anything, yeah, we got that for you.
We got that.
We got that. See, diversity, and it's interesting
Yeah.
to see the diversity.
That's also a really good point to make about manga nowadays, is just the diverse amount of different types of stories, let alone different stories that are out there. It's very it's almost heartwarming to know that there's so much content out there that we have available to us, at any given time, as long as we seek it out.
And it's not even that hard to come by. If you you don't have to look very, very hard. You could just it's kind of easy to find.
Yeah, just Google manga. Google
MANGA.
any single manga that we've named, here, and you'll be able to find it within a minute.
Okay, here's a question: light novels or manga? Because there's some that go off light novels.
So I would actually love to go off of light models.
Could we
light
define
novels.
what these things are for anyone that doesn't know?
So manga. So a light novel is basically like a physical copy, like
It's like a book.
a book, a paperback book most of the time, which is like a novel, but it's a graphic novel. Like if you were to buy comic books, except it's more of a novel format, where it actually looks like a novel, whereas comic books are usually thinner and a lot bigger in volume, but not in amount of pages. I mean, they can be, don't get me wrong, they can be, but yeah, light novels are, they're just physical copies, like paperback books of, like volumes of the manga. They usually have, like, I don't know, like
It's like sort of
10
online.
chapters.
Sort of online
volume.
does arcs. So each arc is a book.
Oh.
So like they have, I think, 11 or 12 books now. Like they just released a new book. Like, in the last, like,
these are the light novels,
Yeah.
and there's also like digital.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, the thing is that the digital is just the digital version of a light novel. So mangas are still, like, light novels are still considered manga. Like they're like, manga isn't so distinct. It's more of a
blanket term.
category. Yeah, like a blanket term, I would say. Whereas light novels could be considered manga, but manga doesn't have to be considered light novels, because you can find the content you would find in light novels online in what people call the manga format. Although technically you could call those light novels. They're just separated to chapter by chapter, whereas light novels are actually volume by volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it, like, to say there's a difference between the two is very, it's like, it could be argued against, but to say that there's not, it could also be argued against.
Semantics. It is semantics.
Yeah, semantics.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now we're gonna go into, like, the last segment of our podcast, where we talk about manga we maybe have been thinking about reading in the future, or like manga we haven't started reading that we're thinking about reading, or manga that we are reading that we're excited to keep on reading. Does that make sense? So I'll start. I am reading, I'll bring up another webtoon, a webcomic called God of High School. You can find it on Webtoons. It's I consider it to be a really, really good story. I think it's awesome. The action pieces are usually explained and illustrated very, very well and precisely. I think it does a really good job. Now, God of High School is the story of a kid who is really good at fighting, and the world that this story is set in is a world where fighting is everything. Like if you're good at fighting, you can kind of make your way through life. But not in an aggressive, like I can beat everyone up way, but more of a, there are competitions that you can go to in order to show your strength and kind of access
like
of,
very kind of like gain a lot of respect.
yeah, you can gain a lot of respect and a lot of just benefits in general in life by being able to win fights sometimes. And so in the story, this main character, Mori Jin is just a regular high school student, gets approached by this guy in a black suit and tie and is asked to join a competition called God of High School. And, from then on, it's just kind of a roller coaster. Like, I honestly didn't expect what happened to happen, and it happens pretty quick. Within the first chapter, I was hooked, to be honest. And now I am up to date with this webcomic, meaning that whenever a new chapter comes out, that's the only chapter of it that I haven't read. And so I have to I'm keeping up with it, and I'm just excited to see what developments come out of it in the future. I'm excited to see where the story's gone. It's already come so far.
So who is your favorite character in this God of High School, and why?
Oh man, there's so many characters. I don't know if I could put my finger on a favorite one, but if I had to choose one temporarily, I think I would go with there's a character named Ilpio Park, and he has this nine-tails fox like power, kind of spirit inside of him that changes the way his moves come out when he's fighting, like the way his abilities come out when he's fighting. And he's just really cool. But what I really, really love about him is his personality. He's a very honorable person. He tries to do things the right way, not so that he can be right, but just because that's the way that it should happen, like a common sense, like this is good, I do this good thing because it's good, not because it's the right thing to do, not because I think it's the right thing to do, but just because naturally I thought this is a good thing, and so I did it. I suppose it's a bit harder to explain than I thought it would be, but yeah, that I would say that he's my favorite character at this given point right now. And what I would say to people who haven't read it, in order to get them interested, is like the action, like really, really, if you're at all into like action in manga or fight scenes in manga, I think it just executes it really, really well. The illustrations are done really, really well, and the explanations of what happened afterwards is really good. I keep saying really well and really good, but it's just the truth.
I mean, it's a good definer.
Yeah. So, do you have one that you're excited to read in the future? Eli?
There's one I'm trying to keep up to date with, and it's super exciting. It's called Home Sweet Home.
Oh.
It's on Webtoons. Because I've been following that for a while. I think did I introduce you to Webtoons? Or did we find it at the same time?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it was you that introduced me.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been so long since I
Yeah,
started
it's been
reading Webtoons
so long. But there was this one on there called Bastard. I was reading that one. I finished it in a day. And it was super good. It was super clean. I loved it. I loved the story. I love the characters. And then after like 6 months, I haven't heard anything from the creators. And I'm like, I hope they didn't just stop making stuff because the story ended for Bastard. And then I read on their front page, on the weekly launch page, Home Sweet Home from the creators of Bastard. I'm like, what? So there's this kid who, I forget his name right now. I've been waiting to like get a few updates up and then binge read.
Smart.
There's this kid. He's kind of a loner. Plays online MMOs. Like sits there all day and plays them. Goes to school and then that. And
Sounds like me.
his family hates that. His family wish he actually did something with his life. And one day, you find this out in like the first like 4 chapters. His family dies. Like they get killed
Wow.
in a car accident.
No
And
good, no
so
good.
what happens is he's alone. So what's happening is he moves into his own place and all this stuff, and people are hating him because they thought he was disrespectful towards his parents at the funeral and all that. And then finding out that there's this weird occurrence that's been happening around the city that they're at, that people are just like dying. Like they find bodies that are all like teared apart and everything, blood everywhere. And then one day he's knocking on his roommate's apartment door. Like he lives on this complex apartment thing, and there's a box for him for food because he gets food mailed to him from an online store, and the box was teared open, like shredded, and there's a trail to the next apartment, and then after that there's blood at the end of the trail. So he books it, and finding out throughout that there's these types of creatures that are forming throughout the city because the bodies get killed and then they transform into them.
Oh, wow.
So as far as I know right now, they are still trying to figure out what the situation is. Because there was one scene, there was a girl who was trying to get into this other person's room, and her face was just like caving in, like from like hunger, because they craved human flesh.
Zombies.
Yeah.
It's a zombie story.
But she looks alive. She looks like a human.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, zombies look humanoid.
But but it
kinda.
wasn't like a decayed thing.
Oh.
But
She just looked normal.
yeah, and then like it started
malnutrition.
slowly like she started changing. So
Gross.
Definitely gross.
but
Definitely
it from their previous story, Bastard, it works with the style that he writes,
Oh,
or the
that's
person
awesome.
writes. I really like it. I'm excited to see more. I'm really excited to see what happens.
All right. And you, Pill?
Yes. So, there's so many that I have yet to read, but I have yet. So the one I will talk about is one that you specifically have suggested to me, and I fell in love with, and that is I believe it's pronounced Duolu Dalu.
Yeah. Dolu Dalu.
Doluo Dalu. It's so good. It's so good. So it's about this guy. I believe his name is Tang.
Tang-san.
Tang-san. And he was a bad dude in a past life. And then he's reborn. A supposed bad dude in a past life. And then he's reborn with the knowledge of his past life. It's just
He's reincarnated.
into but it's like this like really well developed and like beautiful world. That's why I love it so much, is that not because the characters are amazing, fantastic, but the world is so in depth, and just there's details that I had never expected or had thought of, and all of a sudden it's just in your face, and it's like that connects so well, and it's so like it's really, really good. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good manga. Who would you say is your favorite character so far?
There's this dude named Oscar. His girlfriend Rong is my favorite character.
Wow.
Yeah.
Side curve Oscar like that.
Side curve Oscar, because he's a garbage.
Wow.
I mean, he literally makes garbage.
Tofu.
Smelly tofu. It ain't no normal tofu. This is a bad tofu.
I can't argue with that.
But yeah, so Rong is my favorite character because in the beginning, so she has gone through a really, really good development of redemption. In the beginning, she was a snot. She was not okay to people. She kind of like was presumptuous and arrogant, but she learned to like adjust to quote unquote lesser people. And you know, and now she's gotten a lot better, and just she's so nice now, and she understands others, and she actually thinks about people. She's changed for the better, and I love that.
Yeah. The change in her character is definitely a welcome change, I would say. But yeah, no, that's great. Now we're coming to the end of this podcast. If you have any suggestions, if you would like to, suggest a manga for us to read, or just bring up a manga that you want to talk about, leave comments about anything you think we might be able to improve on, or anything we could do differently that might change the podcast for the better. Of course, we're up for suggestions and considerations. I don't think I'm the best at this or anything, but yeah, hopefully we'll see you on the moon again sometime.